The article we're commenting on today is named How the Times Gave Gay its Own Voice Again. It was written by David Dunlap and was published on June 25 of 2017 on the occasion of Pride. It talks about how the word gay and the topics related to it were forbidden for 12 years on the New York Times. This way, redactors could write synonyms such as homosexual but not gay, maybe because of what it meant for people. In fact, the word homosexual is a sexual or romantical attraction, while gay has a whole history background, activism, culture, and community around it. But maybe what disturbed people back in 1975 was the cliché around gay people, such as oversexualization. In the first place, we're going to talk about the gay word being used in the New York Times, even in titles, then why it got removed in 1975, who were the protagonists of it, and then who made it change in 1986. In the 60s and 70s, the word gay was quite often used in titles, reviews, and articles of the New York Times. It didn't have a negative connotation in these. For example, in 1963, a review was made about John Ritchie's novel City of Night. In this novel, the gay world was seen as exciting because of its illegality. Also, a 1969 essay in Art and Leisure section highlights that outlaw sex is not the only facet of gay people's life and fights against the stereotype of the marginal and troubled gay. Some titles of articles were including the word gay to talk about gay rights and concerns, such as the title Is Gay a Security Risk? Or The Gay People Demand Their Rights, or to talk about news such as 5 gay candidates are in states contests. Although we could not say gay people were accepted in a 60s society and popular culture, at least they could be heard in the newspaper and people could learn more about them instead of hearing them. But the gay community was shut down on April 6 of 1975 when the Times released the All Gay Cruise, Prejudice and Pride article by Clifford George. This was about a luxury cruise with lesbians and gays, and some détails croustillants of the story, as we say in French, were not very well received by Iphigène Hochschulzberger, 82 years then and former owner of the New York Times. Even if the text specified that every person in this cruise was a consenting adult and that everything was made with moderation, she asked her son, Arthur Hochschulzberger, who was an editor, to do something about it. He ordered to avoid subjects about gays and ban the word. That's how we haven't talked about the gay community for more than a decade in the New York Times, and he contributed to marginalize them even more, almost pretending like they didn't exist.
In the case of the text we studied, we can see that there were still many people who were in favor using the term gay in the New York Times, who tried to make things happen and who, at their level, have helped to effect some important changes for the homosexual community. Indeed, we can cite the names of Andrew Hume and David P. Rothenberg, for example, who tried to get things done in 1983 during a delegation with Sidney Grusson, the vice president of the New York Times. Unfortunately, the latter refused to use the term gay, but nevertheless accepted a greater coverage. It's a small victory that helps advance the cause. We can also cite the name of Mr. Frankel, the Sunday editor who tried to oppose the order of Mrs. Sulzberger, who ordered her son Arthur, editor for the New York Times, to avoid addressing topics concerning gay life. And finally, as the text explains, Mr. Frankel objected to the order, but complied. Nevertheless, when he succeeded Mr. Rosenthal as editor-in-chief in 1986, he freed up the floor on this subject and decided that henceforth the words gay and lesbian would be used as adjectives in social, cultural, and political context. It was officially Mr. Siegel, as assistant editor-in-chief, who initiated the lifting of the ban on homosexuals on June 15, 1987. In a note that I quote, "Starting immediately, we will accept the word gay as an adjective meaning homosexual. Even if these changes are minimal, they still advance the fight, and this is how Mr. Stock sees his action. I've always been proud that I was able to move the needle a little, and today, even though the word gay is widely used in our society, the gay community still militates for certain rights and a certain recognition that is not yet fully acquired. For several decades now, there have been associations that are there to defend their cause. Already in the 80s, there were some, and the text cits some of them, such as Hume and Rothenberg, which were part of the Coalition for Lesbian and Gay Rights, which was an organization based in New York City providing services to lesbian and gay groups trying to end discrimination based on sexual preference. It was active from and the Lesbian and Gay Community Services Center, which fosters a welcoming environment where everyone is celebrated for who they are. It offers the LGBTQ communities of New York City advocacy, health, and wellness programs, arts, entertainment, and cultural events, recovery, parenthood, and family support services. Today, there are more and more organizations supporting the homosexual community in many countries. To conclude, today more than before, we can say that people talk about homosexuals in a more relaxed way. Unlike a few decades ago, homosexuals are more accepted in society, even if homophobia persists in the world and remains entrenched in most cultures. A lot of studies reveal that more than half of homosexuals have already experienced at least one homophobic verbal or physical aggression in their lives. This is a very high, preoccupying, alarming, and above all, unacceptable statistic. We note that homosexuals are still not free to live and love as they want in society. Of course, there's a progress, it's getting better, but homophobia persists and remains rooted in people's heads. It's a fact in all territories and in all social backgrounds. Indeed, we can say that if there hadn't been a regression on this subject, like here, for example, the banning of the term gay in the New York Times, the fight would probably be more advanced today, but we know that it's thanks to the multitude of these small actions that the fight is moving forward.